Coming up, Seaplanes are the newest venture for the Puyallup Tribe in Washington. 3 Native youth hit the road to explore Indian country. Plus, he's a poet, teacher, and ICT's new senior producer. We visit with R. Vincent Moniz Jr. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
Arizona PBS is proud to support Indian Country Today. For 6 decades, we've provided television programs and now digital content. But we go beyond that, sending outreach teams across Arizona, offering workshops in language and literacy, family engagement and community outreach, and supporting tribal communities with early learning and school readiness resources. Join us at azpbs.org.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Thank you for joining us. We begin in Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Supreme Court has issued a ruling in a highly disputed case in Indian country. On Wednesday, the High Court ruled in the case of Oklahoma versus Castro Huerta. In a 5-4 vote, it said that the state of Oklahoma has the ability to prosecute non-native people when the victim is native and the crime is committed on tribal lands. This decision ultimately limits the scope of the 2020 ruling in McGirt versus Oklahoma. Around the country, tribal leaders reacted, with most saying they were disappointed. The Muskogee Nation called the ruling a, quote, alarming step backward. Both the Native American Rights Fund and the National Congress of American Indians said the decision is an attack on tribal sovereignty. ICT regular contributor John Tasuda weighed in.
I think the one thing that the court left open is that this can be handled by Congress. Ultimately, Congress can pass laws that disperse jurisdiction between states, feds, and tribes if they want to. But that's been a very high hurdle, very difficult to get done over the years. And so while that remains a possibility as one way to sort of settle out these issues, that becomes very difficult to actually get enacted.
To Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, the ruling was a clear victory. In a statement, he said he looks forward to combating the criminal justice crisis in the state. In the Grand Canyon State, local Native students can now attend college at the University of Arizona free of charge. On Monday, the university announced that any student enrolled in any of the state's 22 tribal nations can now receive free tuition and fees. The program is the first of its kind in an Arizona public university. The university's Office of Native American Advancement and Tribal Engagement hopes the program will limit financial obstacles.
I don't want that to be a stumbling block. Now it's an opportunity. And I think that's what this really does. It opens up opportunities, and we might be the first in Arizona, but I hope the other universities jump on board and do this as well, because in the end, it's greater opportunities for our Native students.
More than 400 current students will be eligible at the school's main campus in Tucson, where tuition is currently over $12,000 per semester. Well, Pride Month 2022 is coming to a close, and the Heard Museum's festivities included an all-native drag show, including Indigenous queens and poets who are LGBTQ+. Adriana Smith from Cronkite News has more from the show in the Phoenix, Arizona Museum.
Phoenix is a small growing city with the drag community. We all kind of know each other and go from Flagstaff to Phoenix to Tucson. People do appreciate drag. I've been seeing it with things like this, like the Heard Museum, that drag is becoming very mainstream here.
I am the digital content manager here at the museum, and I'm very excited that this is like a full freaking house. It's crazy.
Fell in love with drag, and now I'm here hosting my show at the Heard Museum. But yeah, Chaos, when you see her come out here, the outfit that she is wearing, she literally made today, and it is stunning. So when you see her, scream. If you're in the Native drag scene, you know you're Native. Everyone who I've met who's Indigenous, we all know each other, and we know that we're Native. With the Indigenous side of the drag community, they're very just immediately welcoming They will talk to you. They will just treat you kind of like your relative and like your brother or sister and look out for you. But I feel like the one reason that we've really been really different is we're all dedicated. I want to make sure that the audience is smiling. If they're not smiling, I will come to you, perform right in front of you, look into your eyes and make sure there's that connection.
And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Coming up, Native youth explore career options and meet ICT's senior producer. But first, the Puyallup Tribe is believed to be the only tribe in the country to have seaplane services in its economic portfolio. We learn more. When people visit Ruston Way in Tacoma, Washington, they will soon see a new seaplane terminal and restaurants. The ventures are the latest projects for the Puyallup Tribe. The tribal nation with 5,000 citizens recently announced it is adding seaplane services to its economic portfolio. Matt Wadwani is the financial officer of the Puyallup Tribe, and he joins us now. Hi, Matt. Great to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well, thank you. So I want to just jump right in here. Tell us how seaplane services were added to the Puyallup Tribe's economic portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. About a year ago, we purchased a property on the waterfront, and we were coming up with ideas on how to develop it. We wanted to kind of think outside the box. The number one goal was to diversify against gaming. But we had a contact with Ken Morera, which is the largest seaplane operator in the state. And we said, why don't you come down and take a look at the site and see if there's potential here? And, after a couple meetings, meeting with our tribal council, doing the background financial market analysis, it made sense. And we can bring tourists in, it complements our casino. And it's something we're really excited about. And not only is it good for the tribe to diversify our economic, development, our portfolio, but it's also good for the entire community, the city of Tacoma, our neighbors. And we just saw it as a win-win overall. And Kenmore's been a great partner, and we've started construction, and we're just really excited to go with this.
I want to talk about this terminal that's being built and also the restaurants that will accompany it. Sort of outline what the tribe's vision is.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, we have one restaurant. We're partnering with renowned chef Roy Yamaguchi to do a kind of a native Asian fusion restaurant there. And then ideally, the long-term vision is you have a seaplane terminal on the water there, and you people in the restaurant can see planes coming in and out every day. You have tourists coming to our casino, and it's just a lively, happening place that everyone can be proud of.
For folks who aren't from the Pacific Northwest, can you outline how essential seaplane services are to your area, and specifically where these seaplanes will be taking off and flying to?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the benefits that we saw is right now, if you want to take a seaplane, the main destinations are the San Juan Islands, Victoria, Vancouver, BC. And you have to drive all the way up to Seattle, which, traffic getting worse. We'll have a kind of a monopoly down on the market south of the Sound. And to us, that's opens up a brand new market. And the possibilities are kind of endless. And, people don't have to drive, an hour to take a seaplane when it's right in their backyard. Sorry, to answer your other question. The market size, seaplanes are very popular around here. There's Lake Union, Lake Washington, the Sound. And we're trying to make it bigger, and Kenmore sees that as well. So it's a win-win.
That's a great segue into my next question, which is about Kenmore Air. I understand there's some plans to hopefully create some jobs and some mentorships for tribal citizens.
Yes, absolutely. That was one of our key criteria for finding partners is will you be able to help train tribal members and create jobs? And they've been a great partner. They're willing to do it, set up training programs, whether it's aircraft maintenance, operating the terminal. We're going to try and recruit some tribal pilots. And so, this kind of checks all the boxes.
In the press release that you all sent, I thought this was just so cool, but there are plans to actually wrap one of the seaplanes in the tribe's logo. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to work with Kenmore, and part of the deal was they're going to wrap one of their planes in our logo with our casino and tribe's fish. And so essentially we're going to give them our logos and see what they come up with, and then have some tribal artists help to give us some more exposure.
That's such a different way to market your tribe. I feel like that is really cool. I want to touch base about, what other kinds of projects the Puyallup Tribe has in its economic portfolio right now. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing we all learned in the pandemic is if you rely on gaming revenues, 90% of your income, you're exposed. And so what we're trying to do now is activate our existing assets, which is our land. We have, we're one of the only tribes, I think the only tribe with a deep water port. And so we're trying to open up a port to start exporting and importing and working with shipping partners. We're looking at manufacturing is one of the big ones with, tribes have several competitive advantages that we can use and essentially draw in partners. And so we have a couple deals in the works now to start, native owned, native made, and then, see where it goes from there. But diversification is really important, and we feel like we're on the right path. The Seaplane restaurant is just one step, but we're really excited about what's coming.
You talked about gaming. The Puyallup Tribe, of course, recently opened a casino. How has that been, coming out of the pandemic and trying to get people to come in? And, what kinds of projects do you have going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we had spent, almost 5 years building this state-of-the-art new casino, and it was scheduled to open, I think, right in March of 2020. And so we were a little worried about that because, that was right the height of the pandemic. Everything was shutting down. We even shut down, for a couple months. But things have turned around. The casino's doing well. The partnership with MGM to bring sports betting in has been great. And it's doing well. We couldn't be happier with it. And the volume's there. And now it's just about protecting, with inflation, the economy is not exactly great right now. And it's protecting that income stream because, yes, we have economic development and we have great plans and we're studying, the future is going to be bright. But at the same time, right now, you have to protect what's your moneymaker and what's driving the source of income for, our tribal members, which is, we have a school, a cancer center, like we do a lot of social programs. And so protect that first. And then, at the same time, we're focusing on economic development.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, Road Trip Nation can help. It's a documentary series that follows the journey of 3 people as they travel the country interviewing inspiring individuals who do what they love. For too long, Native people's stories and futures have been written by others, but today Native leaders and Native youth are writing their own path. Let's take a look.
We're so closely connected with the land that we live on.
This new infrastructure that's come in is dominating our world. We're dealing with so much as tribal people.
It's really easy to get caught up in everybody's expectations of you.
I want my children to live in a different kind of world than I grew up. Dosha Maranukpaga Omids Mabi Midi Mush. Hi, I'm Kimberly Blevins. I'm an enrolled member of the Mandan Hidatsa Rifura Nation.
I'm from the Hopi Reservation. I grew up in Flagstaff, Arizona.
I'm an enrolled member of the Ho-Chunk Nation of Wisconsin.
So we're about to embark on this trip for a couple weeks. We're going to hit Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas, and Oklahoma.
Joining us is road tripper Kimberly Bevins from the Mandan Hidatsa Narikara Nation. Welcome.
Hi, good to be here. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So this series is going to be airing on PBS in July. Tell us about how this project came to be.
So from my understanding, it is a little over 5 years in the making. And so with those 5 years, it started with individuals just starting to discuss that with Road Trip Nation, which is a program that allows youth in general to follow early career paths or along their academic journey and kind of help them find outside sources. And so the talk started about 5 years ago, saying there needs to be an Indigenous focused Road Trip Nation adventure. And so there was interview processes And yeah, so we started last beginning of August.
And how did you become involved in this project?
So I am a student ambassador for the American Indian College Fund. And so I was forwarded the opportunity through them to apply. And so I started applying in 2019 and went through multiple cycles, interview processes, video recordings to send in. And so they picked individuals, there were 3 of us, that do a lot of community outreach. We're all on our beginning journeys to wanting to improve our communities.
My gosh, this seems like such a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to do something like this. I mean, it's hard to really talk about it, but what was your favorite part?
I got to interview Dr. Carrie Joseph, and she is an environmental scientist. And I'm along my STEM career path in academics. And so I have a background in environmental science, and I'm pursuing my master's. I'll be finishing my master's this fall and looking for PhD programs along the same track. And I also enjoy doing STEM outreach with Indigenous youth. And so upon meeting her, I wasn't expecting to have such influential people that we were going to speak to, or that was going to hit on my heart so much. And so she talked about her path and her journey, and she's everywhere that I want to be. So I say that I found my new superhero, because she is literally laid out the footprints for me, and I can see them, and I can see myself going into the next level.
Ryan Redcorn from the comedy troupe The 1491s was the director. What was that like to work with him?
Oh, it was great. One of the things that doesn't make it into our documentary is that not only was it Indigenous focus, in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well. And that was such a critical component for us to have an Indigenous director, an Indigenous crew behind the camera. And so they traveled around with us. And so having that wholesome Indigenous group, we were able to, I think, really partake in our adventure and be vulnerable and be open to this new venture where none of us really explored a lot. And so working with Ryan, he made it so easy and fun, and he really got our depth and heart out of it.
When this airs on PBS later or in July, I should say, a lot of non-Native people will be watching this. What do you hope that they take away from it?
I think just the aspect of what it's like to be Indigenous. There's such this a stereotype or a persona that, non-Indigenous individuals perceive us as. And this documentary, we're vulnerable, we're open, we have so much humor. It was just generally a really good time to just be Indigenous. And so I hope that they take away who we are as Indigenous people.
Before this interview started, we were chatting and we were talking about your children. I'm really curious, will you be watching it with them, and how special will it be to, be able to have something that they can watch in the years to come?
Oh, it's such a unique perspective. We filmed for 3 weeks. And so I was away from them for 3 weeks, and I am a very hands-on mom, and I am doing everything with them. And so to be away from them was so hard, and for them as well. And so for them to see mommy's hard work right there for them to see. And I talk about them so much, and even they're in the some of the film as well. So I'm just so excited to see, how much they mean to me, because I talk about them often, and it's just such a beautiful thing. So I'm very excited.
Well, I'm excited too, Kimberly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you can watch Native Way Forward on World Channel at 7 p.m. Eastern on July 9th. It's part of the Road Trip Nation series. The ICT Newscast is proud to share that we have a new official member of our team. Vincent Moniz Jr. is Nueta and Oglala, and he is now a senior producer for the ICT Newscast. Hi, Vincent. Congratulations.
Thank you. And congratulations to you, too. Congratulations to our entire team for having me around.
I think it's no surprise just from your introduction that you're the team jokester. But for our viewers who are meeting you for the first time, tell us more about yourself.
Well, I am between 5'2" and 6'8". I have worked in all 3 different newsrooms. So I started out working at a regional Indian newspaper called the Circle newspaper in South Minneapolis, in the Minneapolis American Indian Center. From there, I interned with Gordon Regenti at the Native American Journalists Association. I wrote for Red Vision's newsletter, which was the Indian newspaper in my high school. I have been on National Minnesota Public Radio. I don't know why I'm telling you all of this, but know that I am steeped in old-timey journalism.
You know, one of the coolest things, I think, for the rest of us on the team is that you've actually been working with the ICT Newscast for some time. So maybe tell us about that transition and, you know, how you got here.
I was actually in the middle of another project working with a public radio journalist covering kind of a what's going on now with respect to Standing Rock and the people that went to those camps, when I got a call out of the blue from then executive producer Patty Talahangba asking me if I'd be interested in helping produce the television show. I came on in September of 2020 and have been working very quietly in the background ever since.
You know, as a young Native kid growing up, did you ever think that you'd get the opportunity to work for Indian Country Today and now, you know, it's Newscast?
You know, like our political correspondent, I was one of those Indian kids that, like, Indian Country Today was the dream. If I could work with Indian Country's Justice League, that would have been absolutely amazing. And so as I moved through journalism and learning different styles of writing, ICT has always been a dream of mine, to be able to work with people, with everybody, including part of our production team, Max Montour, who said I could stay at his apartment when I come visit.
You know, I want to talk about the stories, because so often at the ICT Newscast, we're so focused on what kinds of stories should we be telling? What kinds of stories does our audience care about? Tell us about the kinds of stories that you like to report on.
You know, the ones that really stick out to me, of course, being having an artist background, rather, the stories that stick out to me are the artist stories, the ones where they're in these massive galleries and museums, and they started just like every other artist, at home with their grandparents or with their mom and dad. Those are the stories that touch me, because it reminds me of my father, who was a visual artist, Bill Ledoux. Those are the ones that speak to me. With respect to the stories that I like to chase, those are the international Indigenous stories. They are fighting the same things that Indigenous people in the Americas are fighting, and I think it's important to highlight them. Next week, we're going to be going into some of the stories surrounding the Maasai people, the Sami people, all of the things that are happening in Ecuador right now with respect to the Indigenous groups fighting for assurances on health, education, jobs. These stories are absolutely important. Their fights are our fights as Indigenous people, as they fight for their land rights and their humanity.
You know, talking about artists, especially in Indian Country, I want you to show us your medallion and actually tell us the story behind how you got it.
Well, this is probably the greatest piece of TV memorabilia I will ever own. Jill Castine, who we featured on the show a couple months back, she actually beaded a regular pickle and a mic for the TV show Reservation Dogs. I immediately contacted her and said, will you please, there is a nod in the show to a spicy pickle. They never show it. So I asked Jill specifically if she would make me a pickle dipped in hot sauce, and she thought it was hilarious. And some months later, I'm wearing it across my neck.
You know, we've seen really big changes in mainstream media, specifically with shows like Rutherford Falls and Reservation Dogs. And you actually have ties to some of the main actors and writers in those kinds of shows. Maybe talk about how those connections really help the storytelling that we see on this newscast.
Well, I hate to name drop because I don't think that Indians do that. And so there are some people that are a part of these shows that I have met and continue to meet. Them being the core members of the 1491s who have created their own television universe and are now, with respect to the new season of Rutherford Falls, they're also acting on that show as well. One in particular, he's known as the skinniest, chubbiest Dakota. Bobby Wilson is a member of my family. And I have to say, with respect to those guys in the 1491s and watching them rise up from dancing around shirtless on a skit to being a part of a TV show, I think it's absolutely amazing to watch that. And I just hope that one of the writers, Megan Z. Pensino, sees this interview and replies to an email I sent to him 3 years ago. That's it. That's all I want.
Well, Vincent, thank you so much for being here, and we'll check in with you again.
I hope so. Send pictures of beads if you want me on the show more, ladies and gentlemen. Good day.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For more news, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives. I am Aaliyah Chavez.
And I am Vincent Moniz.
Sometimes you got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run.